Native News Online's weekly spotlight on the people making news and leading change in Indian country.
Today, joining us will be Secretary of Agriculture Tom Vilsack. On Friday, October 14th, I interviewed him and he made a special announcement about how the USDA is granting $71 million spread across the United States to help the underserved populations, of which the American Indian, Native, Alaska Native farmers are part of the underserved group. So please join us welcoming Secretary Vilsack. Good morning, Mr. Secretary.
Thanks for giving us this opportunity to speak to you today.
Yes, and I interviewed you a long time ago in Washington, NCAI, probably 9-10 years ago, when you were with the Obama administration. Thank you for joining us on Native News Online. Hey, can you tell us more about the $71 million going out to the underserved communities and the announcement that's being released today?
Sure. Let me just start by saying that if you're a Native American producer and you are interested in trying to get some help in your operation, and you are interested in trying to access USDA programs, you can face an overwhelming set of information in terms of the number of programs that might potentially be available either through the lending aspect of USDA or through the conservation programs at USDA or through the value-added producer grant efforts that are underway at USDA. Literally, we have probably, somewhere in the neighborhood of probably 70 different programs. So it's confusing. And if you are able to identify the program, then there's the issue of how you go about basically applying for it and making sure that your application is fully and completely done. And so the reality is that we can have programs, but they don't get to the people that need them because they don't know how to access. And so it's important and necessary for us to understand that and for us to provide resources to organizations and groups that are on the ground, that are local and regional in scope, and who have connections and are trusted by those individuals, so that individuals don't have to go to someone that they don't know or don't trust, but they can go to someone they do know and do trust for information and for assistance and help. To do that, obviously, you have to have staff, you have to have resources, and so that's the reason why we have two different components here. We have the regular program, which we call the 2501 program, which is really designed to provide a wide range of resources to organizations on the ground to provide technical assistance and outreach to underserved populations, veterans, farmers, ranchers, forest owners, underserved producers. And in this particular set of announcements, we're providing about $36.1 million to 52 different organizations across the country who basically provide those outreach and technical assistance efforts. And it can be it's important to understand that based on demographics, based on culture, based on the economy, based on language, there's no one single way to do this, to identify solutions that can be beneficial to underserved producers. So the notion of 2501 is to say, look, here's some resources. We're going to spread it out to partners across the country in rural areas to expand our outreach efforts. And they're going to basically sit down with individuals that they have connections with, and they're going to potentially talk about air property issues. How do you consolidate the ownership of land so that you can actually access USDA programs? How do you put together a business plan? How do you figure out how to access potential land opportunities or credit? Are there career and educational pathways that are important? How do you become more productive as a farmer? Are there education and training initiatives that could help you understand renewable energy practices, conservation practices, climate smart agriculture practices, and what market opportunities might you be able to access at the local and regional level? So the 2501 program is designed to do this, and again, 52 organizations receive allocations under this program, and the money is coming from two sources: the regular budget for 2501, which is an annual appropriation, and then part of the American Rescue Plan, providing additional resources for second piece of this is a result of the American Rescue Plan and a specific direction from that bill for the USDA to really focus making sure that equity is at the center of what we do at USDA in terms of our policies, our programs and services, and initially set aside a significant amount of money for expansion of technical assistance programming through our National Institute of Food and Agriculture. Initially, we took $75 million and we provided it to fairly large cooperative organizations that have worked with USDA over time to, again, strengthen technical assistance to historically underserved farmers, ranchers, forest landowners. This announcement today is the second cohort of that. It's another $35.1 million being added to the $75 million. This is going to go to 13 cooperators who were selected through a competitive process, and they're going to essentially work with us to create a stronger system of programming tools and resources to make available to underserved producers. And this is really designed to make sure that at the end of the day, no one is disadvantaged by their current circumstance in terms of being able to access programs that are available at USDA. So the combination of these two things, you end up helping roughly 65 organizations expand the reach, if you will, of USDA and making sure that as we're making loans, as we're making conservation decisions, as we're making other decisions that relate to producers, that folks who have been underserved for far too long are included.
Well, thank you for that. And we really appreciate that in Indian country. And Mr. Secretary, you seem to have a great commitment to Indian country. I've noticed it through the years. And you brought on Janie Hipp into the USDA and Heather Dawn Thompson. I know both of the women, and they're outstanding. How are they helping to make a difference there at the USDA?
Well, Janie, as you know, is our general counsel, and I think it's important to have someone in that office who understands and appreciates the challenges of Indian country to make sure that as decisions are being made, virtually everything we do has to go through the general counsel's office for approval. So if for whatever reason, if we're not paying particular attention to Indian country, that Janie's there to basically say, hey, we want to make sure that we're addressing these issues. I'll give you an example. We're doing a number of broadband announcements by virtue of the infrastructure law that was passed and by virtue of the American Rescue Plan. And as we work through the process for making those grants to expand high-speed internet so that people have the ability to use that technology, Janie was instrumental in making sure that the match requirement. Oftentimes, these programs basically say you can have federal money, but you got to match it with local or state money. Sometimes that's difficult, depending upon the place you're coming from. Mm-hmm. So in these reconnect programs, we're essentially waiving the match when it comes to Indian country.
That's really great.
That's the kind of thing that Jane, Heather Dawn, she's focused on, I think, two major initiatives among many. One is the food sovereignty issue and making sure that as we put together our nutrition programs, that we're conscious of the cultural sensitivities of Indian country and making sure that we are incorporating traditional foods into those programs, bison and things of that nature, and then developing the opportunity to have those foods available through processing grants and so forth. And then secondly, which I think is pretty interesting and very important, is as our Forest Service is looking at the number of places that it has management responsibilities and stewardship responsibilities, many of those locations are incredibly important, sacred sites, significant sites to Native Americans across the country, and making sure that we do a better job of working with those folks in terms of co-stewardship, co-management and in fact transferring potentially land to tribes. So it's it's an important opportunity for us to have a closer relationship and to learn actually from the ways that span centuries. You all know a lot more about forests than most of us know. We want to make sure we're incorporating that indigenous knowledge into the decisions relative to the health and safety and the well-being of our forested areas.
Well, that's great. And again, thank you for your commitment to Indian country. Hey, before you go, can I ask you real quickly about the National Summit on Nutrition Security and Healthcare USDA is putting on October 25th?
I suspect it is it's an outreach or a continuation of the hunger conference that the president sponsored at the White House for 50 years.
Sure.
As we look at ways in which we can, end hunger and expand access to healthy choices, obviously we need to make sure that we're fully engaging everybody in this effort. I mean, we have too many diet-related diseases out there that could be significantly curtailed and prevented by proper nutrition. And again, there are cultural differences and sensitivities that need to be taken into consideration. So it's probably likely an opportunity for folks to get together and discuss how we might collectively go about ensuring access to the programs that will provide help and assistance to families. How do we ensure that as those dollars and those programs are available, that they incorporate healthy choices, that they provide the information and knowledge that is required for people to be able to make healthy choices, and what we can do as a federal government to be a better partner in that effort.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Secretary, and hope you have a great weekend, and hope to talk to you again soon.
Absolutely, Levi. I appreciate again your time.
If you appreciate what we do here at Native News Online, we invite you to donate to support our continued work covering Indian country. You can scan this code with your smartphone or go to the link located below this video to donate today. We greatly appreciate your support. Please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and be sure to scan this code or go to the link below to subscribe to our newsletter. Thank you for joining us today, and please be sure to join us again next week for another episode of Native Bidaské. Chimi Gwech.